Hey guys, I know the first time you pick up a bait casting combo when you're trying to transition from spinning gear to learning how to use a bait casting reel can be a little bit frustrating. Here's a couple of really quick tips to help make that transition a little bit easier. The first thing you want to do is make sure you've got yourself a good piece of equipment. Just like any other job, a quality piece of equipment will really make your life a lot easier. What I've got here is I've got an Abu Garcia Revo SX. It's kind of the mid-range line of the Revo reel, but the Revo reel itself is actually a very high quality reel. So any of those reels, something along the same quality standards will definitely make your transition a lot easier. The next thing you need to learn how to do is set your reel properly for every different lure that you're using. That's really not something you're used to with a spinning reel. You just tie it on and cast it in and out, but you need to be setting your bait casting reel for every different weight lure. What you've got is you've got two different dials here on the side. You've got a tension dial on this side and here on the right, and typically if you've got a high quality reel like this, you've got magnetics as well. I'm going to talk more about the tension than the magnetics, but just for simplicity's sake. But really, if you're twisting this forward, you're tightening the tension on the spool. If you're twisting it backwards, you're loosening it. Now that spool itself is free spinning on a bait casting reel. So if there's no tension, it would just continue to spin on itself. What you're really trying to do is adjust a slight bit of tension on that spool to match the weight of the lure. The heavier the lure, the more tension that you're going to need on that spool. So what you would want to do, the ideal tension, is if you hit the bait casting button, when you hit it, if that lure hits the water and your spool stops spinning, you've got the ideal tension. So again, you want to try to adjust it a few times. If you tighten it a little bit, loosen it off a little bit, but basically you want to hit the bail button to open the spool and just have it slowly go down, and once it hits the water or ground, you want that spool to stop. The next thing that you really want to make sure is you've got a good rod as you're learning. And a good rod is what you'd be doing. This is an Abu Garcia, again, Veritas rod, but you want to make sure that you've got just a bit of tip and not a very flimsy rod. A really flimsy rod is what that's going to do is it's going to accelerate the bait as it's going out, which is going to accelerate the spool. What's happening is when you get a backlash, the line isn't being carried off the spool or out of the reel at the same pace by the lure as the spool is spinning. So when you're really accelerating that spool, that's when you get that backlash because the lure isn't going out fast enough to keep up with it. So again, that's a couple of quick things with the rod, reel, and then the cast is also really important. It needs to be a nice smooth cast, otherwise you're going to get that spool acceleration that's going to cause that backlash. So again, a nice smooth cast, bringing it back and casting it out. As the lure gets close to the water, what you need to do is you need to start to feather the actual spool, because again, that lure isn't traveling at the same speed the entire time, but the spool itself will continue to spin at the same speed. So as that lure gets closer and closer to the water, you want to slowly thumb that spool to slowly slow it down as well. So again, the spool needs to be spinning as fast as the lure is basically carrying the line out of the reel. And that's what's really going to cause your issue. So if you keep those couple of things in mind as you transition over to the bait casting reel, should make that transition a heck of a lot easier for you.